Well, let's get started now. Good evening, everybody. My name is Tim Scarborough. Welcome to the 23rd actual session of the engagement room. This is a place where any speaker can come in and speak for a minimum of 20 minutes about anything that they would love to talk about with a fantastic audience out here on Zoom land, and get some great Q&A and all of a sudden gain some extra immortality, because all of this after we're done is going to be actually out there on Spotify for the whole world, Apple Podcasts, as well as YouTube. And right now we are streaming in Facebook. So actually saying hello to everyone out there in Facebook land. And let's give my speaker his wonderful presentation. We all have big goals. But why do so many intelligent, talented people fail to achieve what they're capable of? Positive certified intelligence coach Shawn Brumfield explains tonight that the barrier is a lack of internal leverage. The key to maximizing your skills and sustaining peak performance through life's challenges. In this engaging talk titled Internal Leverage, Shawn introduces the three essential leverage types: lens, action, and power, used by top performers to accelerate process. Discover tonight through listening to him how to train your brain for peak productivity, utilizing the release and rely strategy, and build habits that ensure sustained success without burnout. Let's welcome in our speaker, Shawn Brumfield. Let's welcome him in. Let's pin you up here, brother. Here we go. The floor is yours.
Thank you. We're living in a crisis of human potential that the science says we already have the tools to resolve. And you can see that crisis show up in our attempts to improve our performance, our wellness, or our relationships, when those attempts at improvement start off good, but then at some point fizzle away. Think about the dieting trends that many people hop on. They start off really good, lose some weight, but then within a few months, they not only gain the weight back, but have gained back more than they had when they started. Or consider New Year's resolutions that we make. We make New Year's resolutions in January that have all but vanished before February is over. You can even go to a national scale and look at the organizations and companies that spend together tens of thousands of dollars on employee development, where the stats show that while they start off good, within 3 months or so of the development programs ending, the employee's performance and behavior is right back to where it started. Consider, even in your own life, the things that you've tried to improve, where you started off really well, but then just noticed all of the improvements fizzle away. Why is it that so many intelligent, talented, ambitious people often fail to create the performance, the wellness, and the relationships of which they are truly capable? Now, if you look at the common wisdom, you're going to hear typically some combination of the answer being willpower, insight, or motivation. You need some more of a combination of that. But the science actually says something very different. It points to something that I had to learn the hard way. Because years ago, I thought that my problem was a motivation or a willpower problem. Because I had gone to school, made all A's throughout my school career, often barely without even having to study, only to leave school and then lose my job, strain my marriage, and face foreclosure in my home. All because I couldn't will myself strong enough or force myself to do some of the most basic things consistently, like get out of bed on time or start a work project well before the panic of a looming deadline sets in. Now, for months, I beat myself up about this. But then one day, while sitting at my kitchen table, I stopped asking what's wrong with me and started asking, well, what if the issue is that I just need to change my strategy for changing? Now, and this is a simple little question.
Shawn, you're muted.
Yeah, I was sitting at my kitchen table one day and I decided to ask a different question. Instead of asking what was wrong with me over and over, beating myself up, I began to ask, what if the issue is that I just need to change my strategy for changing? Now, I was frankly surprised at how something so little as a mental action like that could create such a huge difference in my mood and in the things that I decided to do going forward. That moment at the kitchen table became a foundation for all of the improvements that I came to make later on. And it demonstrated for me in real time something that the science had already confirmed. And it's this: it doesn't matter about your intelligence, your abilities, your skill, your ambition. The key to lasting change is the practice of mental tools that activate within you that which willpower, insight, and motivation simply cannot reach. Now, those kind of tools give you an advantage, one that I've come to call internal leverage. Because internal leverage is an advantage from using small mental practices that create big results with very little effort. And tonight, what I want to do in the next 15 minutes or so is share with you some of the brain-based reasons that those small mental tools are so effective and how they can impact your life, and then give you at least two specific strategies that you can begin to use based on that to do something about improvement that lasts as soon as this talk is over. Now, the first strategy that I think of actually reminds me of something that occurred some years ago when my daughter was still in middle school. She stumbles into my room one night complaining about a sore eye. I leap into action. I check her eye, but I don't see anything there. I figure, it's too dim in here. I need some more light. So I flip on another light and I check her eye again, but I don't see anything in her eye. So then I turn on every single light in the room and check again, but still, I don't see anything in her eye. Then I go grab the flashlight, the brightest one actually that we've got in the house. This thing is basically a handheld car high beam, and I'm shining it so brightly that I can see into the depths of her little soul. And I check her eye, and still, I don't see anything in her eye. I'm starting to think, okay, there's nothing in this little girl's eye. But she's still complaining about the soreness, and I don't want to leave her hanging, so I try to do something about that. I rub the bottom of her eye, I blow puffs of air in it. I have her blinking real fast. You know how it goes. Leaning back, leaning forward. None of it's working. Finally, I think about it. Eye drops. I go get the eye drops. Now, if you've ever tried to read an eye drop bottle, you know the words on that thing are freakishly small. So in order to get the right dosage, I settle my glasses on my nose, get the dosage, tilt her head back, prepare to put drops in her eye. Oh my goodness, I can see it. It's right there in her eye. It's this thin black crescent of an eyelash nestled right against the white of her eye. It was so delicate and so fragile that even though with my glasses, it was clear as day, without them, it wasn't blurry, it wasn't fuzzy, it was completely invisible. And what fascinated me is that I had spent all that time, about 10 or 15 minutes, and shining all that light, not realizing that it was my own distorted view of the situation that was preventing me from doing something about it. Now, the exact same thing is happening to you every single day and you don't even know it. Because the science says that there's a region of your brain where there lives an automatic habitual mind pattern. It's called your judge. And your judge, this mind pattern, is always on the lookout for anyone, including you, or anything or any situation that it can label as bad, messed up, screwed up, a failure, or a mistake. And when it does find something, it makes you feel bad about it. What do I mean by bad? I mean fear, worry, anxiety, frustration, annoyance, stress, negativity, upset. And the longer you're bathed in that negativity, the more distorted that your view becomes. You're sitting at a traffic light, late for an appointment, and you feel the frustration rise with every moment that the light doesn't turn green. There goes your judge. You made a minor mistake that everybody else has already forgotten about, but you feel like you can't stop thinking about it because to you it feels like a major catastrophe. There goes your judge. Do you see a career or business opportunity that you're actually qualified for and you're definitely interested in, but you hesitate to go after it because you hear a voice that's telling you, oh, come on. What are you thinking? You know you'll never be able to make that work. There goes your judge. Or how about this? You keep overcommitting, saying yes to things that you actually feel a no for because there's something telling you you're a bad friend, family member, or colleague if you say no. There goes your judge. In fact, anytime you experience the grip of negativity for more than 1 to 2 seconds, the science says that you can rest assured that your judge is messing with you. And here's the thing about this. It doesn't matter how much light of scrutiny you shine onto the situation. If you don't do something about your judge, the thing you most need to see to move forward will remain completely invisible to you. Now, New York Times bestselling author and Stanford lecturer Shirzad Shamim has something to say about this, about how you can do something about your judge. It's simply this. Whenever you notice that negativity rise for more than a second or two, you pause, take a deep breath, and simply say in your head or out loud, there goes my judge. Now I know this seems too trivial to make a difference, but the science is clear what happens in your brain when you do this. When you make that statement where you're naming the negativity that you notice, the regions of your brain that allow you to reclaim control of your perspective light up, quieting the control that your judge has. It's really that simple. And in fact, it goes deeper than that because your judge simply initiates about 9 other negative patterns that affect how you behave and react in the moment. And if you want to know more about what those patterns are or learn which ones might be messing with you, then you can go to my website that's in the chat, scroll to the bottom, and send me a message that just says discover. Now, even once you've done something about your judge and you've got a clearer perspective, you've still got to deal with the challenge. What do you do? Well, think about this for a second. Consider a sailboat captain. Got a little experience out there in the open water, but the wind is screaming across the deck of his sailboat. Now, every time the intensity or the direction of the wind changes, this sailboat captain is struggling. He's white knuckling it, trying to keep this thing off course, but the wind changes, keeps blowing him off course. Sometimes it's sending him incomplete circles. He finally struggles after being frustrated and bothered by all of this, making it to the home port of call, but he's exhausted, can barely do what he came there to do. And he's exhausted not so much from the journey, but more so from the struggle. Now, if you think about it, you'll understand that we've all at some point been that sailboat captain. Because as we navigate towards the kind of lives that we want to create, the winds of life, the failed project, the arguments, broken relationships, the unexpected diagnoses. They all blow through our lives, sometimes knocking us off course. So, what is it that you can do in order to take that inevitable wind that blows and still stay on course? Consider a second sailboat captain. Now, this sailboat captain is out there on the same water, same day, headed in the same direction, and using an identical sailboat. The conditions are the same, but she's not having the same challenges that this original sailboat captain was having. The wind is still changing in intensity and direction, yet she's making shifts with this sailboat that allow her to stay on course, even not just despite the winds, but somehow oddly because of it. She makes it to the home port of call, not just on schedule, but ahead of the schedule that she planned, and she's got plenty of energy to do exactly what she came there to do. The difference between them is not the ship, the wind conditions, the direction. The difference between these two sailboat captains is their level of skill in harnessing the wind's power. Now, think about the winds that tend to blow in your life right now. Maybe it's the project you put all your work into that's going off course, might not hit the deadlines. Maybe it's the teenager that seems to defy every single instruction that you give. Maybe it's the relationship you thought would last, but now is slipping through your fingers. Whatever the winds that are blowing are, you can, just like that experienced sailboat captain, take the very same force that would blow other sailboat captains off course and use it as a force that propels you forward. And this is really interesting to me because I like to take a look at how this experienced sailboat captain is doing this. Notice that as the intensity and the direction of the wind changes, this sailboat captain shifts the sails into different positions that nudges the wind into lending her its power. Now, just like that sailboat captain shifts the sails into power harnessing positions, you can shift your thinking into power harnessing perspectives. And fortunately, there's science about how you can do this. When you look at the well-researched fields of study like positive psychology, cognitive behavioral therapy, performance science, neuroscience, and the like, they all converge on a certain set of answers that one of the most powerful ways to direct your perspective when you face a challenge is the quality of the questions that you ask. Now, if you ask a quality question that's going to give you a power harnessing perspective, it needs to have at least three elements. One is it needs to shift you from being a victim of circumstance to being a creator of them. Second, it needs to shift you from seeing only the problems to starting to see the possibilities. And then third, it needs to shift you from just surviving the circumstance to actively transforming it. And as luck would have it, I've got a question you can ask that has all three. Whenever you feel the negativity in you rise from a challenge or winds of life that are blowing you off course, ask this question. How might I turn this headwind into an unfair advantage? Now notice, it's got all three elements. How might I? See, you're doing something. You're no longer a victim, you're creating circumstances. How might? Might signals that we're not looking for an exact answer the first time. We don't need certainties all the way around. We're just looking for possibilities. And then how might I turn? Turn means change. It means conversion. This is where you transform the circumstance. How might I turn this headwind into an unfair advantage? Now, when you've got those specific practices, naming what you notice and asking this headwinds question, you've got some powerful mental tools for creating lasting change that are evidence-based. Now, as I learned about and started applying more mental tools like this in my own life, my life improved, spiraling upward. I excelled in my career. I eventually started a speaking, coaching, and training business. I established a new home. My relationship with my wife began to flourish. And at first, I thought it was just me. I was somehow left out of the memo of how to be able to do all of this, and I was late to the party learning. But as I started to work with people, I started to see that differently. For example, like when I worked with the real estate executive that I coached for a bit, who told me that at 43 years old, he had for the first time become more productive in his work and in his personal life than he had ever been. And not only that, but for the first time, he was actually enjoying his packed to-do list. Or how about the project manager that I was helping? She came to me for some coaching about chronic procrastination. And she was wondering, why are we focusing on mental strategies and not to-do lists and calendars? Until 6 weeks later, she comes and tells me, in the 6 weeks I've been working with you using these strategies, I've accomplished more than I had in the prior 6 months. And then the same strategies have improved my relationship with my 5-year-old son and with my husband. Or how about this one? An entrepreneur who was capable, trying to get her business off the ground, but was struggling. All kinds of things were going on in her life. She was clearly capable, but there was so much happening. She was being threatened with a layoff, and then she was suddenly hit with going through a divorce. She comes to me after working with these strategies and says, you know what? The biggest thing I gained from using these mental tools is that I've come to realize I'm far stronger than I thought I was. Now, this upward spiral of improvement in my life that led to the things that I gained and being able to even help other people integrate it into their lives all began with a kitchen table and a single mental tool in the form of a question I didn't even know at the time I needed to ask. And now you've heard this talk, which means you're now sitting at that same kitchen table in some area of your life. Maybe it's in the area of your personal performance or the performance of a team that you lead. Maybe it's in the area of relationships where you want to enrich some relationship that's very important to you. Or maybe it's an area of wellness where you just want the relief in knowing that you can confidently go forward even when the winds of life blow at you, knowing that you're far stronger than you thought you were. Whatever the case may be, understand that the science says those changes can't be made permanent with willpower, insight, or trying to push yourself harder. Because it exists in a region of the brain that willpower can't access. But there's good news, because while you're sitting at that kitchen table, you already have all of the tools that you need to move forward to create lasting change. You just need to stand up from the table, pick up the mental tools, and start to practice them. Tim, back to you.
Let's give him a big round of applause. Thank you, Shawn. That was fantastic. I love the model. I really, really do. Let's come on. There you go. Come on, room out here. Let's go ahead and keep those shaking hands out there. Fantastic. Thank you, Shawn. All right,
Wow, look at that. Thank you.
I'm gonna switch the mode into multi-speaker here. That way we can get this started. All right, so anyone who would like to speak, and please raise your hand there, and I will pick you out. And that way, I think Charlotte, are you the first one up for a question?
No,
Well, okay.
I
All
don't
right.
have a
So
question.
okay. All right. Well, Michael, I think Michael's got his hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Shawn. I enjoyed listening to what you shared. Can you expand a little more on the mental tools that you're talking about?
Yeah, is there anything in particular that stands out to you you want to hear more about?
Well, if you just sort of give an example, like you said, if I'm questioning my performance, or I'm not fulfilling a certain goal, And I realized I asked the question, what do I need to do to turn this headwind into an unfair advantage? So
Yeah,
what mental tools? I'm not relying on willpower, motivation, insight. So what
right.
mental tools am I using to move forward?
Okay. Good question. There's a couple things that come to mind when I think about this. One is to look at when you hit these headwinds, the things, the challenges that might be holding you back. For example, you will find often that there are patterns that you got blind spots in, like the judge that I mentioned.
Mhm.
So when that occurs, there'll be things you'll stay blind to. For example, we'll tend to maybe either complain about what's going on. If we're not complaining actively, what we'll do is be focusing on all the ways that this thing won't go right. That's a sure sign that the judge is messing with you. And then sometimes when there are challenges or setbacks that happen, one of the mental tools that you need to use is the first quiet, like I mentioned, the judge's activity so that you can see clearly. That's where you pause, you take a deep breath, 10 seconds or so, and then you simply name, well, there goes my judge. In fact, you can pick out a specific thought. Like, man, that client was an idiot that left. I don't even understand what they're doing. Wait a minute, wait a minute. You pause, you take a breath. You know what? There goes my judge. I'll never get this right. I'm sick of having to send the paperwork over and over again. Wait a minute. Okay, wait a minute. There goes my judge. It's my judge saying that it's sick of doing the paperwork again. That's not really me. It's the negative pattern. And then when it comes to the headwinds question, that question is about moving you to the mode of possibility. And here's one of the ways that you can implement that. You ask that question. It's not a once and done thing. So let's say you hit a setback. You don't understand why a client left. You thought you were doing everything that you could. And of course, I don't know anything about your work or business. I'm just making up an example from stuff I've worked with people on. You don't know why the client left or what happened. Well, when you ask this question, you might not get an answer immediately. You're not supposed to be thinking, analyzing, trying to force an answer. Every time you feel the negativity rise, you do the pause, you call out the judge, and then you ask that question very gently and just see what comes up. That's why it's about possibilities. And one of the things that you look for when you see what comes up is there something that I can learn that will give me greater benefit in the future than this thing is costing me right now? Or there's another angle that you can take and look for. Is there some personal strength or capacity that I can build that will make a situation like this no longer bother me? Or you can take another angle and look for this type of an answer. Is there something that I can make happen that might be unrelated to this that I wouldn't have done if this hadn't occurred? Does that help you?
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Beautiful.
All right, I think Master P, do you had your hand up? Okay. Who's our next question? Sandra?
I was a really good worker when I had a boss. I overdid everything. Now I'm the boss, and I let
Uh,
myself down all the time, specifically on writing a novel I've been working on for over a dozen years.
mm,
I've had some setbacks, I've had to do over, and I just never plow through. What can I say to myself at the kitchen table
hmm.
to
Yeah.
get myself think? I mean, do I need a boss, or am I to be the boss of me? And how do I motivate myself?
Uh, Very good question. Now, this actually goes back to something that I experienced some time ago. It reminds me of, now it wasn't writing a book, but I noticed that there were tasks that kept staying on my to-do list for however long. Things that didn't even really take long to do, but they kept showing up over and over again, day after day for, I don't know, weeks, months, whatever the case may be. And then one day I was driving to pick up my son, I think maybe from football practice, and I checked my watch like I normally do. Well, I got to pick him up, get back, and there's this thing that I thought of doing that was on my list, but I checked my watch to decide if I was going to do it right then or if I was going to wait until after I picked him up. Now, that seems like a very innocent thing, but for some reason that day, because I had been practicing these strategies, noticing the patterns, noticing what my judge is doing, noticing when these things are active, something stood out to me that didn't stand out to me before. I was missing something when I was looking at my watch, which is why I didn't take the action before I picked him up. You know what I was missing? I was missing panic. And when I realized is that I was looking at my watch not to see if I actually had time to do it, I was looking at my watch to check my panic levels. And if I didn't feel panicked enough, that had become a habit. Right? That's one of the negative patterns. It becomes a habit that you don't move until you become panicked enough. And you start relying on whether you feel like it instead of on whether it matters to you. And so what I started doing from that point on is I stopped asking the question, well, do I have time, or do I feel panicked enough, or does it feel urgent? And I started asking, the thing that I'm thinking about, is it connected to something I care about? If the answer is yes, I move it forward, even if it's a tiny, minuscule step. Now, here's where you get into trouble, because we think willpower and motivation. You don't need willpower and motivation to make the step. You just need the mental tool that can get you moving, even when you don't feel like it. It's like, you ever tried to eat one potato chip out of the bag? You get some Pringles. I don't know if you like Pringles. I got family members that like Pringles. And I tried never to open this thing, right? Because as soon as you open the Pringles, as soon as you break that seal on it, the next day, if you haven't eaten what you wanted, all the Pringles are gone. Mm-hmm. That's what you need to do to get moving. You don't need to finish the whole thing of potato chips. You just want to break the seal. Maybe breaking the seal is simply sitting down, pulling up your writing materials, and saying, I'm going to type one sentence. Closing your stuff and going about your business. Maybe it's putting a thing on your calendar that says every day at 3 o'clock, I'm going to sit at my writing spot for 5 minutes. And then I'm going to tell a friend of mine that that's what I'm doing. All you need to do is break the seal. And if every day you keep breaking the seal, one day you'll look up and the book is finished.
Michael, you've got another question? Michael, you're muted. Hold on. You're
Sorry
muted.
Thank you,
There we
Shawn.
go.
When you're sharing that breaking the seal, it reminds me of the 1 minute goal. Just instead of trying to accomplish this whole thing at once, I'll do a 1 minute goal. I'll do a small task every day. I'll do 5 minutes rather than like I do an hour. No, I'll just do 5 minutes and just keep doing that until it becomes a positive habit.
Yes, exactly. And now I'm glad you brought this up, because this is very important. Here's where these mental tools come in and why dealing with your judge is so significant here. Because what you'll find is that you'll often not start the tiny little 1 or 2 minute practice, because you will hear in your head, this is too small to matter. Guess what pattern that is? It's your judge.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to learn to deal with your judge. because your judge will be the one that says that's so small that it doesn't matter. So why even begin? But you're not trying to finish climbing the mountain. You're just trying to take the first step. And what happens is it's that first step. So here's another piece. This is a mental aspects of mental tools that I didn't discuss, but they have to do with activation energy, which trumps motivation every time. Right? Everybody's looking for motivation. Do I feel intense enough? Do I feel inspired enough? But what you want is a tool that can create activation energy. Motivation is not directly under your control, but activation energy is. And you can't get it activation energy by willpower. You get it activation energy by simply feeling okay with taking a step. And when I say okay, it doesn't mean, well, I took a minute and then I didn't do more than a minute. So, I was hoping for more than that. It means that you're literally fully satisfied and okay if after that minute or two you stop. And what happens is, oh, this is a great example. So I was dealing with a real estate executive, and he was dealing with all these projects at work. Things were overwhelming, and because of that, it's so much that he's got to do. And he was procrastinating. He was finding himself scrolling on social media when he needed to be working. All of this stuff was happening. And one of the things I told him to do was, I said, all right, here's what you do. Set a timer for every hour, an alarm that goes off every hour during the workday.
Yeah.
And you're going to take your list that you've got of the things that you know you need to do, and you're not going to start to do things on the list when that alarm goes off. What you're going to do is you're going to pause. You're going to take 1 or 2 breaths, 10 seconds. And then you're going to scan the list. And here's what you're looking for. You're looking for how much resistance you feel. And you scan the list until you find something that has so little resistance, it feels silly not to do it. If you find something like that, you do it. If you look at the whole list and you don't, then you do an exercise that helps you let go of the judge. Because the judge is going to tell you, see, you idiot, you couldn't even do anything. You spend 30 seconds doing an exercise that helps you name the judge and let go of it. He came back and told me, the first 3 hours, I didn't take any action. Then hour 4, I did something for about 10 or 15 minutes. He said the rest of the day, I got more done than I had in a couple days before. And the rest of the week, I got more done. This is what he says to me. He says, honestly, I got to tell you, I don't believe that crap worked. But he didn't use the word crap. That's what I mean by these mental tools are so powerful. The science tells us that we have them available, but we're still trying to go off willpower or motivation or insight. Oh, I know what I need to do. I just got to buckle down and do it. Or we go by beating ourselves up. You know what? I just got to hunker down. I can't be this silly about it anymore. I just got to do it. No, no, no. Willpower is no good for sustained, enjoyable action. Willpower is good for deciding to stop trying to force action. It's good for that, so that you can turn your attention to something that works.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Got another question, Lashani?
Hi, Shawn. I'm just wondering, you spoke about recognizing the judge and then asking the better question.
Right.
But how do we know when we've truly changed our perspective versus simply, I guess, talking ourselves into a more positive story and possibly ignoring like legitimate problems?
Oh, very good question. Yeah. Very good question. Because one of the things that can tend to come up with this is people will link this to being positive. Well, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be positive. But that's really not what you're after. You're not after trying to be positive. I remember I was trying to go to me and my family were trying to go to a specific spot to grab something to eat once. This was, I don't know, I think we were on vacation. I can't remember where. It might have been somewhere at the beach or something. We were trying to figure out what spot to go to eat. And I couldn't make up my mind. Some people had some ideas, and some people had some specific places to go. But I picked a spot on the map that I wasn't sure had any of those places, but I knew that's where I wanted to go to try to make my decision. When people were looking at the map, wondering, well, why that area? It was because that area on the map had the most things to pick from. And that's the thing that you're looking for when you're doing these exercises. You're not looking for positivity, because positivity might not be what you need. You're not looking for calmness, because it might not be that calmness is what you need. What you're looking for is range. You're looking for options. And the way that you know that the things are working or moving you forward when you're dealing with the judge is that you start to feel internally like you have a lot more flexibility in what you decide to do in that moment. If you feel urgent and pressed, it's probably still the judge messing with you. If you feel relaxed and flexible, like you can choose among a set of options without being necessarily pressed one way or the other, now you're talking about you have range. So one of the things that you look for is you look for, what does it feel like when I'm making this decision? Do I feel pressed? Do I feel urgent? Do I feel like, here's another one. Do I get the sense that I just want the uncomfortable feeling to go away? If you're still in the mode where what you want is the uncomfortable feeling to go away, you don't have enough range yet. Because we're not trying to get rid of negative emotions. You need them. They carry wisdom. Your sadness tells you it's time to reach out to somebody for support. Your anger tells you that injustice has occurred that needs to be rectified. Your disappointment tells you that you might need to look at a new strategy. You don't want to get rid of negative emotions. You just want to prevent them from controlling what you do next. Does that help you at all?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
All right.
Now I've got something for you, Shawn. So
Okay.
as I've listened to several people bring up the questions, I know that, as in you're speaking in, direction as a coach, and then there's several coaches in here as well. We tend to drive. We're pushing ourselves. We're trying to get to that next place. We're trying to achieve the next level. But it seems that in the new world that we're in, whether it's social media, whether it's traditional communications, whether it's a high pace kind of a business environment, what have you,
Right.
I've noticed, and I felt this myself, that it's really easy to be overwhelmed, because either you take too much on, you over what's the word? You overindulge, or you actually don't know how to say no. And the one thing that kept on popping in my head as I listened to you is like, where in this, when the judge is talking, especially because I think sometimes you have to accept the judge is there, and the judge is not going away. But where do you give yourself grace? Where do you give yourself a little bit of grace and take a deep breath and overcome instead of keep on driving? Where do you extend the grace to say, like, okay, maybe I'm not there yet. Maybe I need to take 2 steps back, and I need to rest, or I need to read a little bit, research something before I push forward.
Yeah, that can be especially challenging, especially for people who are high achievers or highly ambitious, which tend to be high percentage of those folks among groups of entrepreneurs.
Hmm.
Like that, that's why
burnout's
get launched
real.
out.
Yeah, burnout's
Right.
real. Yeah.
Yeah. that can be a significant issue. So one of the things that comes to mind here is really tapping into what you care most deeply about. So there's two things that come to mind, and one of them is tapping into what you care most deeply about.
Mm-hmm.
Because for one, that gives you more fuel. When you're connected to what you care about and the action, and you can see clearly
Mm-hmm.
how this action moves forward, something that you care about, it gives you more energy and more fuel, which is why I started to reshape my career so that even when I'm doing things in tech for an employer,
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing more talking and explaining, working with customers, because I get energy from that. It's something that matters to me to help people understand an idea that they didn't understand before. So it really helps to be connected to that. And when you start, you mentioned the word push, which really stands out to me,
Mm-hmm.
because that's one of the disciplines that you need a mental tool for, is the practice of no longer fueling your action by pushing. So push can help you create a lot. That's how people create a lot of stuff. But push also gets you burnout. It's very possible for these negative patterns to help you get a promotion, and then you don't even feel good about the promotion when you got it, because now you're mentally off to the next thing, or it doesn't feel like something you really are satisfied with. You thought you would be happier, and then 2 months after they gave you the raise, you feel like you need another one. Like, it's just never ending because it's being sent forward by a push. So the first thing is to do the mental practices that keep bringing you back to being fueled by a pull and not by a push. And one of the ways that you do that is to find, for example, here's one way you can start that, is you can take all of the things that you're doing, look at your list, your calendar, and all the things that you got to do, as much of the stuff that you're trying to achieve, and you commit to making sure that every single day there's at least one item, no matter how small, that moves something forward that you deeply care about, simply because it gives you energy.
Mm-hmm.
Something needs to be on your list like that every single day, even if it's incredibly small. So I'll tell you how small it can get. This is no joke. When I was taking care of my mother in her final months, I was doing a full-time job. I was doing the coaching and some training at part-time, and taking care of her. This is more than full-time. I'm meeting with nurses and care people in the house. I'm trying to make sure she stays on schedule for her meds. Sometimes she doesn't want to take the meds. Sometimes I'm not sure if she's fully mentally present or if she's just stalling on. I don't know what's going on. It's hectic and stressful. You know what I did one of the things that I did during those weeks is I made sure that every day, towards the end of the day, I took out a couple minutes to carve out time. I turned the phone off, didn't look at email, and I enjoyed very slowly savoring every single bite and chew of one ginger snap. It's one of my favorite type of cookies. Now, that sounds silly on the surface when you say it, but it's it's a mental tool where you're training yourself that no matter what happens, you're going to show up for what you care about.
Being in the moment, in that
Being
place.
in the moment.
Yep.
And then what I added to that is that I started being more in the moment with her. She's stalling on taking her meds. You know what I started doing? I started standing there. If she was stalling, I would just notice the way her hair was moving. I didn't know her eyebrows were turning that color now. But look at the way her mouth curls up when she grins, smirking like she thinks she tricked me. You know, like that's
Yeah.
you fully engage in the moment, and you stay connected to what matters to you. And that starts to happen more and more, so your life is not fueled by a push. I can say several other things, but I'll pause there.
Oh, yeah. No, that's fine. Thank you. All right, we've got time for one more question because we are almost at the 8 o'clock hour, or as Shawn would say, we're almost at the 9 o'clock hour since he's been so good for us coming from the East Coast.
Right.
Who's our last question? Anyone out there? You raise your hand or speak up. Okay, Michael, you're on.
Well, again, Shawn, great listening to you. In your research in finding the judge, would you find the judge is similar as the critic and the imposter in that the judge is like an overzealous guardian partner who's trying to protect you from failure? Like if you don't do this, if you do this, you're going to fail, and you know how you're going to do, how you're going to feel when you fail. So would you sort of look at it quite similar?
Exactly. The judge captures all of the things that you just mentioned. So some people talk about the inner critic. When they talk about the inner critic, they're really focusing on the voice that badgers them, that tells them, hey, you're an idiot, what's wrong with you? But but when I talk about the judge, I'm talking about that plus. I'm talking about the voice that badgers you and tells you you're not good enough for this, or come on, what's wrong with you? And you're an idiot. The I remember one time, I can't remember what I had done, but I remember the judge had told me after some mistake I made, oh, come on, look at you, you're an idiot. And then in the next mental breath, the judge says, see, come on, why would you do this? You're too smart for this. And I remember thinking, the judge doesn't care what he says. Like, which one is it, judge? Am I an idiot or am I too smart? Like, the judge doesn't care what it says, right? If you just pay attention to this, it's not even rational if you just pay attention. So the judge is badgering you. The judge badgers or it's critical of others. Look at that person. I mean, they're one knife short of a full set, or I can't stand them, or oh, here they come again. Like that's judging others. Or the judge, here's the one that many people don't pay attention to, and they certainly don't talk about when they're referring to the inner critic, is the judge will judge circumstances. That's where you label a circumstance as bad. What does the circumstance bad mean? It means the judge has said there's some standard that this circumstance didn't meet, and you're obligated to stay miserable until the circumstance changes to be like you want. When it comes to the judge of circumstances, it's basically you're making a contract with yourself to stay miserable until things change. The judge covers all of that, and it creates imposter syndrome, telling you that there's some standard you didn't meet up with, so people are going to find you out. It tells you that you didn't learn enough, or if you're getting in front of a lot of people, that I don't care how much you prepared, you're still going to look stupid when they ask you that one question you can't answer. Yeah, all of that is the judge.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, folks, we are at the end of session 23. Let's give Shawn a big round of applause and thank him for this fantastic session. This has been great. I love your energy, dude. I love the direction that you're going here. I believe you have a fantastic concept and flow to offer, and I'm just a big thank you. Definitely. Now,
Thank you for having me.
yeah, of course. It's every time, you talk about momentum as we've gone from the very first session last September up to now, we're getting to the end of season one as I decided to go ahead and call it. We've just done nothing but gain momentum and more
Wow.
questions, more great answers, more dialogue. And it's really gets down to the concept of why I wanted to do this. And you are just one more pivotal person that has added flavor to this thing called the engagement room.
Wow,
Now,
love it.
yeah, are you still going to be available for a few minutes after 8 o'clock, or after we end and everyone goes? Because I want
Yeah,
to do an
sure.
extra. I want to pick your brain a little bit about your background there. So now, before we go, I want to tell you about what's coming next on the 26th of this month. I'm going to pin our next speaker. If you can see Mr. Michael McDonald here, he's going to be the last speaker at the end of this month for season season one, and I'm really looking forward to what you're bringing forth. And again, Michael, thank you so much for your kind words and feedback this morning. It really, really touched my heart, and I appreciate that. And so, anyone has feedback, anyone that wants to send me a message through this, don't forget Shawn's information in the chat to go to his website before we shut down, because he has some valuable information out there. And what can you ask for for a dynamic coach? It's right here, and he's been here. So again, thank you, Shawn. One last round of applause for our speaker, and session 23 is in the books. So
yay!
Yes,
Love
thank you
it.
so much. Thank you all for being part of this with me again, and come back and see me. It's going to be out there on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and out on YouTube. And Shawn will have all these links as well. So I'll put that out there on Facebook and all. So thank you so much. Charlotte, Christopher, Ed, Lashani, Belva, Michael, Miss Tanya, Master P, Sandra, Michael, thank you so much for this. And we'll just as you guys leave, we're just going to go ahead and go into our extra session. So thank you very, very much.